recorded by committee, recorder, and other members of the committee and members of the audience. Minutes will be transcribed and made public and posted to our website once approved. I am going to take a quick roll call, so I make sure I know who's here, and everyone in the audience does. Molly Thomas.
Here.
Thank you. Ann Hutchinson.
Here.
Bill Fields. Jason St. Peter. Here. Bonnie Bond.
Here.
Diane Singer. Corey Sprague.
Here.
Rich Mahoney.
Here.
Okay, so now we know who is here. Let's start with the superintendent's report. This will be a fairly brief meeting. This is an in-between meeting. So, Peter, go right ahead.
Okay, sorry. Eileen is asking me if there's a telephone number. Eileen, can you, are you on, or do you need me to send you that number?
She doesn't have a microphone on her,
Okay.
so she needs a number. I'm sure.
I can't really do both things simultaneously. Eileen, I'll send it to you in a minute. Good news. The first sort of quick thing, and I don't think I shared this at the last meeting, we got approved from the state to be part of the rapid testing for COVID-19. So that's good. We're submitting the final paperwork now, and we hope to start that in early December. That's just for symptomatic kids and staff, but it gives us a 15-minute turnaround. Obviously, there's some more training and talking and things we need to do about it, but I'm excited about that. I continue to monitor what's going on, and I meet with this joint committee to look at health and data and where we are. There are potentially 4 things that could impact us in terms of a decision to go remote. I don't think we're there yet, but they would be a continued big upswing in the county or in our immediate communities. Our immediate communities are really doing quite well. The county is a little more complex. So that's one. The other thing would be a cluster of kids or staff in a particular grade or across multiple grades. That hasn't happened yet, though we did have a case in the 5th grade and a case in pre-K. And both of those grades are now remote. We've not heard any additional news about other cases there. A third thing that could be really complicated is if too many staff were out and we don't have the capacity just to have school in person. And if folks had to quarantine or multiple people had to quarantine, that could be an issue. And then the fourth one that probably would connect to the other 3 would just be if either staff, parent, or students' level of anxiety was through the roof, and it didn't seem like we could have people in. Again, I continue to monitor it. We're hoping to get some additional direction from the state soon. There may be a little relief around busing and what we do on buses. And I think I mentioned to other people before that we had hoped to bring back additional kids in 3rd and 4th grade and in 5th and 6th grade, starting the week after Thanksgiving on the 30th. For the time being, we're delaying that at least a week till the 7th, and we'll keep an eye on what we're doing with that. So that's where we are. The other question I get a lot is, wouldn't it be proactive or preemptive to close schools and be fully remote the week after Thanksgiving? I'll continue to look at that, and if I make a decision on that, I'll share it by Monday. But again, I don't think that's necessary at this time, though I really urge people, and as much as I say this, I hope people are listening, to practice the hand washing, the social distancing, and the masking. and to be very deliberate and careful around hosting guests and particularly not traveling during Thanksgiving. The last time I wrote it, there were 4 states you could go to, and Hawaii was one of them. Now Maine's off the thing, so it's only 3. I don't think anybody's going to Hawaii, so it's Vermont and New Hampshire, and I just hope people don't travel, and even that they don't travel within the state. So that's where we are. The next 2 things I'll let Rich talk about. One is a tuition agreement with Richmond, or proposed tuition agreement, and the second is a shared services with Richmond. So Rich, I turn it over to you.
Sure. At this point, we're just kind of just looking for a vote, and you have the final form of both agreements before you. I will point out that, as you know, we were vacillating between a 3 or a 5-year term on the tuition agreement, and Richmond has indicated they do want the 5-year term. So we'll just be, I'll be making a motion on the 5-year term in a few minutes. With regard to the shared services agreement, it's all the same exact language that we've been operating on for the past 4 or 5 years. The only change is obviously is the date. We're going for a 3-year term on that. We're proposing a 3-year term on that. And the rates that are in the contract would be, the first year would be $60,000, and then go up at 4% increments after that to $62,400, $64,896. So that would be the locked-in rate structure that we have. We've been in contact with the Richmond folks. They're meeting tonight, and I anticipate that they'll be voting on the same thing sometime next week. They did not post it for a vote tonight. So I guess with that, I would make a motion to approve the tuition agreement as a 5-year term with the rate structure as set forth in the document.
Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Second by Bill Fields. Do I have discussion? Hearing no discussion, it's a roll call vote. Molly?
Aye.
Ann?
Yes.
Bill? Bill?
Yes.
Jason?
Aye.
Bonnie?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Thank you. Corey?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous vote. Go ahead, Rich.
I make a motion to propose to approve the tuition agreement for a 5-year term with the rate structure set forth in the proposed document.
Second.
I have a motion by Rich, a second by Molly. Discussion? Hearing no discussion. Roll call, Molly?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Jason?
Aye.
Bonnie?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Aye, again, a unanimous vote. Anything else, Rich?
No, that's it. Peter, you can just get the agreements to Steve for signature when you get a chance.
Great, I'll do that.
Peter, do you have anything else?
No, I gave my COVID update in the wrong order. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
But, I think that's it. It's for
I
me.
have a follow-up question on that, Steve, if you'd entertain it.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Peter, can you just give us a quick update of what the sports and extracurricular situation is moving into the fall, winter season?
Yeah, we'll talk about it at length at our December 3rd meeting. We're waiting to hear from the MIAA. I think they'll make an announcement shortly. There's another governing body, the EEA or something, that made some statements about things. We'll see what happens. There's potential discussion about starting athletics in January after the new year. But I don't think the athletic directors, the principals, are yet on the same page on that. So we'll talk about it at length on December 3rd. It looks like skiing is the potentially least complicated of the sports, and then the other winter sports are wrestling, basketball, and hockey. We already heard that hockey will not be happening this year, and swimming, of course, right? So wrestling, swimming, and basketball. But we'll share a really complete update with a range of possibilities and where we are on the 3rd. The obvious thing, I think, for everybody is if we were to decide to do athletics, that would be in place while we're in school or in a hybrid model. If we pivoted to a remote model, everything would be put on hold and we might come back. There's also some talk at the state level about winter sports moving to later, but as you recall, football and soccer are already slotted in and you can't move everything to the same couple months. So we'll see what happens with it. Any other questions on that, Rich?
No, I just was, people asked me, so that's why I asked you. Yeah.
I had a follow-up actually. So winter sports are we doing, because our meeting is 4 days after technically when winter sports start. So are we gonna hold off on anything? I mean, if the MIA comes out tomorrow and says we're waiting until January, it's a moot point. But if they come out tomorrow and say winter sports are go and we're supposed to start, what is it, November 30th?
If we needed to, we could call a special meeting with 4 to 8 days notice. A little birdie told me that the MIA might delay everything till January.
Gotcha.
So that's why, I can't confirm that, but I don't, I'm not so anxious about it.
Right, okay, no, that's fair. I just, there's those 4 days between our meeting and the supposed start, so.
Peter.
Yes,
I just to give them an additional update, the Pioneer Valley did already vote to delay the start of sports until January. The athletic directors in Berkshire County met yesterday. The principals are in the process of scheduling our meeting in Berkshire County to meet and make a recommendation. So that is all in the works right now. And it would just be premature to tell you where we're landing because the principals haven't met. So that's why we have the December 3rd timeline.
Good.
Excellent. Any other questions about sports?
well, I had one more question just
Sure.
regarding extracurricular activities in general. I mean, are there any other extracurricular activities going on after school, including Project Connection, theater, music, anything at this point, or
Project Connection is going on.
is that all virtual or is that in person?
Chrissy, none of it's in person right now, right?
No, we do have some programming in person that started on November 16th. It's not all of the programs. Some of the programs remain fully remote. But we have, in coordination with the cohorts, so some students have some programming on either a Monday or Tuesday and some on a Thursday or Friday, depending on what cohort they're in, that they are in person for. It's pretty small groups at this point, but it is happening.
And Krista, can you speak to any extracurricular things outside of Project Connection?
Yeah, so we do have clubs and things like that running, like our Pathways program, Best Buddies is running, student government. All of those things are happening fully remote at this point. Even like we're getting ready for our national induction ceremony, and we are actually planning the ceremony to be fully virtual at this point, just because we're not really sure. We can't have a gathering with all of the adults and students coming together. So that'll be a virtual ceremony. So we are trying to keep all of these clubs and activities going. Shakespeare and Company is only happening in coordination with the seniors, and that's across the county. Seniors are involved in that activity with other seniors from other schools. And again, that's all happening remotely. Our musical activities are just not happening right now. So.
Any discussions about the spring musical yet, or are we still waiting on that?
Yeah, we're waiting. We haven't even begun discussion at this point.
Any other questions?
I had one question.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
the Project Connection, what activities are there exactly that are, I don't care about the virtual, but the ones that are in person that are obviously increasing risks of
Yeah, I can't speak to the other buildings. I can only speak at the high school. We have Spartan Racing happening. There's 2 different groups. We have one group that has 4 students and one group, I think, that has 5. So there's 9 students total, but there's one at cohort B and one at cohort C. And then we also have the esports happening 1 day a week. That's actually happening in person because we're in the computer room where obviously the students are spaced 6 feet apart, participating. That would continue if we're virtual. The issue there is around the requirements of the computer software itself might not run on some of the students' home computers, so that's why we're having it in school. And there's one art program running in the art room using the same space we use for classes during the day, so that they're socially distanced. Those rooms are being cleaned. They're all in the A wing, so we isolated it to one part of the building that we're using so that the custodial staff can do the cleaning and stuff that they need to be doing in the other parts of the building.
And there's people, it's not just grade specific, there's people from all 4 grades theoretically mixing in those courses or
Yeah, the student groupings can cross over like the in-school cohorts, but that's the same that was happening in our sports that we were running in the fall with volleyball and football and our soccer preseason practices, and then the cross country and the golf. Like those students were sectioned by cohort B and C, but not necessarily in the groupings that they are in school during the day. So there's just mixing that does happen in those groups.
Muddy Brook and Monument Valley, they do try to do the programming where it's just like 2 grades together, like 5th and 6th, and then 7th and 8th. I'm not sure what Muddy Brook is doing, but I know Audubon and Farm and Garden and Wilderness Adventures are all, because they're all outside. So
Right.
those programs are all, but one of my sons is doing Greenagers, but that's fully remote for the term.
Okay. Other questions about COVID?
Well, I mean, just to follow up on all this, I mean, you know, obviously in the fall, the numbers were a lot lower and the numbers are going up, and the way it's continuing to go, it doesn't look like it's a question of if, but when. And, you know, I think going forward, we really need to look at prioritizing and trying to do everything we can to extend the actual school and learning in the core subjects as long as we can. So, again, at this point, you know, if the numbers stabilize or go down, you know, maybe it's not something we need to look at, but I think going forward, it should be high on our radar as far as trying to preserve as much, you know, education as we can going forward in the core subjects.
Yeah, no, that's good. I agree with that, and we'll continue to take a look at it. The one upside of the 2 cases we had was it really forced us to look carefully at our procedures and us in relation to doctors' offices, public health people, and contact tracing and all of that. So I think we're better positioned now than we were 2 weeks ago on that.
And one more thing on the rapid test, it's great and it's another tool, but I just want to make sure people are aware that this testing is, you know, not as great as the ones where you have to wait a couple of days. There's a lot of false negatives, so it's not a cure-all, and it's not gonna, you know, make things significantly better. Again, it's gonna help and it's gonna be a positive, but I mean, I think everything with, you know, it doesn't mean we can let our guard down with regards to the social distancing, masks, et cetera, because it's another tool, but it's not, you know, a huge advance that's gonna, I think, change things radically regarding our behaviors.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll add, yesterday we had a conference call with faculty and staff, and about 130 people participated. And Michael Peralt, who's the infectious control guy at BMC, joined us, and we talked through things. And one of the things that sort of became clear is that people have pandemic fatigue, and that some things that we were doing well at the start of the school year, we need to reinforce and push a little harder. But I think as importantly, what's going on in and around the schools is very solid, and we have to be really mindful of what's happening outside of school, right? What happens when kids get in a car at the end of the day? What happens in their free time? What happens in family time?
Anything else?
No.
Anyone else?
And the CDC removed its guidelines for opening schools today. They removed what was politically motivated, and they put in place that in school, in person is high risk. That was the CDC. And Massachusetts is using its own kind of criteria. So just thought I'd throw that out.
That is true and accurate, and there are also people that think kids being in school is significantly safer than kids being at home and on their own interacting with other people.
Well, no, I just include it because people sometimes talk about the CDC as being one of the fountainheads of information. We know it's a political body, at least in this administration, but today, I don't know, somebody will probably get fired for it, but they admitted that the evidence that they had put in before was not sound. And so they have used new data, and it's very quietly put on their site that now in-person learning for schools is high risk, and that kids K through 12 are susceptible to COVID and can transmit it.
Anyone else have anything on COVID?
Yeah, Peter, I have a question. So with the fifth grade, with the youth, the younger children, and if they test positive, are we informing like youth sports leagues and that? Because it's not really tied to the school necessarily, but it is.
Yeah, so the whole contact tracing thing, everybody was informed, is my understanding, right? So the two standards around like what a close contact is. So there's 15 continuous minutes, which was the original standard. And then the second standard was 15 minutes in aggregate over 24 hours. So literally there's patient X, and then one by one, they go through everybody who's got that time relationship with patient X, and they called them and told them to quarantine if they were there. So the reason why we sent the whole fifth grade to remote learning wasn't that 90 kids and 10 staff were impacted. A very small number of kids were, like 9. Many more staff were impacted, but we didn't have the people to run fifth grade because 7 or so staff were seen as close contacts, and they actually had to quarantine. But like, so
It's just that was
the youth leagues know, and conversely, if somebody involved in a youth league tested positive, that would come back to us.
Yeah, it could be multiple schools at that point.
Yeah, very, very likely. I mean, that's like you look at the hockey teams that were going to New Hampshire and New York, and very quickly, it's hundreds of people are connected.
Anyone else? So does anyone have a subcommittee report? I won't read them all. We just met last week. I don't think there's been any subcommittee meetings.
Well, we just met Steve in finance, but we're tracking to deal with that at the meeting in December. So I don't know that we can update now.
Well, I was there. We did meet. Any old or new business?
I would just like to really give kudos to Rich and everyone on the negotiation team, especially Rich with the negotiations with Richmond. I know it was a lot of time and effort on his part, and he did a great job, and really looked out for our district. Got a great, fair deal, I think, for both districts, but, I really want to signal him out and really tell him that we appreciate all he did for the district.
Absolutely, I agree.
Thank you.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we are adjourned by unanimous consent.
Nice.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Jason, we're gonna have to schedule a meeting for B&G.
I'll explain it to you.
You want to be the new president or the new chair? We can talk about that at the meeting. We'll schedule something.
All right, yeah.
Okay, have a good night. We're gonna sign off in Stockbridge.
I'll email you.